Recording in progress.
Welcome, everybody. Today is our first day of database class for fall semester 2025. The goal of this video is to walk us through some of the required tasks that we have to do as we begin a course formally here at Gateway Technical College. We have certain things that we have to go through. As you can see in Brightspace, I've connected to the course. This is a combined, or what we call stacked, section of database. So I have two sections. The one is the 2RMA. Those are the people here in the classroom with me here today. And then we also have the 2W7A, which is the fully online asynchronous with no required meetings. That's a mouthful, but that is the situation. So most of our people tend to sign up for online classes for whatever reason. So a majority of us are online. So I record this video not only for the benefit of those in the class, but for those that are online as well, so you can feel kind of attached to the classroom. Now, once you're into the course, the first big tip I'll give you is click on the content menu item at the top menu bar, and that will take you really into the meat of the course. In other words, where the content resides. I really do not like that course homepage that they have developed, and I've mentioned that to the people that run it, but it is what it is, right? So some people love it, some people hate it, and I happen to be on the not like it so much side. When you're in this mode, you will generally see all the units of instruction will be listed on the left side of the screen. And right now, you can see many of these units are hidden. What will happen as the semester progresses is I will incrementally release the units as we move forward. My goal here for the first day of class is to get through Unit 0, which is all the introductory kind of stuff and get us ready to work. And then we'll dig into Unit 1 and at least get started on it. So we're not like a super hurry, but we are in what we call a blended format here in the classroom. So the face-to-face section here, normally, like if we were to offer this in like a traditional college format, this would be a 4-hour class here today. Right now, if you can imagine that, you'd be here all afternoon. But Gateway offers courses in the IT area often in what we call blended format, meaning that it's half online and half in person. So some of the absorption of information and working through materials is something you're going to do on your own time. It seems kind of weird to kind of cut the class short like that, but it is beneficial because usually I can get through all the material in that time frame, lecturing and coding. And that's kind of my goal as we do this stuff. So I'm going to provide information for you, and then we're going to code together to do the work. So it's kind of like a guided tutorial style course, generally speaking. All right, right now I'm in Unit 0, and Unit 0 is one that just is basically set up so that we can like look at how the course is structured, the syllabus, etc., what hardware and software we need, and talk about some other basic things, including getting software installed. And then Unit 1, which we'll go to next, is where we actually get into materials, and real content. If you are following along with me in Unit 0 or not, if you're just watching the screen up on the wall, that's fine too. But generally speaking, this will be our process every week is typically we'll hit 1 unit a week, right? Those units will be incrementally released as we progress. So, and when I release those is really kind of dependent on where our progress is. But typically, once we finish 1 unit of instruction, the next one will be ready to go. As we get towards the end of the course, I realize like by the time we're finishing here, Thanksgiving's happening, Christmas is coming up, that kind of stuff. And we all get really busy. So towards probably around a little before Thanksgiving, I will release the remainder of the course all at once so that you can plan out your time and see what's coming. So there's no surprises. And that's really helpful when you have like holiday things going on and things get stressful with other classes. Here in Unit 0 at the top, you can see I have kind of like a list of topics. I also want to be mindful of the fact that right now I'm an instructor view mode. So I see the stuff that's hidden and all these little things that you guys don't see on your screen. So your screen might look a little bit different than mine, but generally the same. At the top of each unit, I will list our topics as I have right here, like what I'm intending to deliver in that unit. And then I get into materials. Now, because this is an introductory unit, this one's somewhat atypical, but as we move forward, my typical pattern, and I'll show you like unit 1, for example, here, just so you get grounded. Topics at the top, topics reiterated with important links, and then a video posting, like with old videos and current videos, and you'll see I have quite a library of videos. In this case, I have some introductory videos I want you to watch, reference materials, then assignments, and then activities are also included. Generally speaking, each unit of instruction will always have a topic list, videos associated with it, the reference stuff that I want you to read, and the assignment, right? And those are usually the key pieces. Every unit has at least one assignment put in there somehow, some way. Going back to unit 0 here, I do have a little bit of a course overview. Talks, and we'll see this stuff in the syllabus too, so I'm not going to really focus on it right now. We have a couple of very key reference sites that we'll use in lieu of a textbook, and that's the W3 Schools MySQL area and the MySQL tutorial site, both of which have a very, very rich set of materials. We used to use the Murox 3rd edition book in the classroom. They just came out with a 4th. You do not need to buy a book for this class. However, and this happens once in a while, I get people that repeat the class, bought the book last semester or something, and they still have it. So, I mean, you still can use it. I have PowerPoints are included in the course shell if you really need them. And if you got money burning a hole in your pocket, you can run up to Barnes & Noble. It's an off-the-shelf title. Not that it would necessarily be in stock, but it's an easy one to find. It's not expensive. I like it only from the standpoint, real frankly, of a reference material more so than a textbook. But you know what? The fact that you don't have to buy it saves you a bunch of money. All right. I do have a welcome message here, and I'm not going to read that to you. This is just a little bit of background about me, the course, and how we operate. Not too dissimilar from the announcements I've already emailed to you. Right, so I'm glossing over that too. I do have some information here about our Zoom sessions. Right, so the people here in the classroom, well, you don't need to Zoom, but Zoom is on if you want to attach to it. Screen is being shared actively. For those of you that are watching this online, just be mindful of the fact that every Monday during the fall 2025 semester from 12:50 to 2:50 p.m., I will be on Zoom. I will also be on Zoom for the hour preceding class for office hours if you guys need extra help. And if you're online, you don't have to ask permission. You can just pop into the session. I will also offer to all my online people, if you want to come to the classroom, you're welcome. We have 4 people in seats and we have 18 total seats. So we have 12 open seats in the classroom and you can just come on in. I don't anticipate there'll be a mad rush or anything. Although a heads up might be good. But the Zoom link is provided here. That Zoom link will be used for office hours, class time, and if you ever call for support, like we do a one-on-one Zoom and I'm helping you out, that's the link. Generally speaking, I do prefer that you have cameras and microphones on when you do Zoom. And you'll see a little Zoom etiquette thing here at the bottom. Next, we get to our video section, and the video section is, this is something that will repeat in every unit, and I break it down typically into sections like that, where I have new videos at the top. Those are the ones from the current semester. And then I have archive videos that I feel are still pertinent to the material from previous semesters shown there. So like some people that are online get super eager and they don't want to wait for me to publish the new video and they just watch the old videos and roll with it. So like most of the stuff we're going to do today is in those videos that are up on the screen there. And sometimes they get a little bit dated. So you can see I taught this during the summer and then I taught it last fall. And it's probably better to watch the summer ones than it is last fall's, but the stuff is there if you want to watch it. Other thing I'll say about videos, all the videos I record here in class, I do publish to YouTube. So if you guys want to like be auto notified of new stuff coming out, you can just subscribe to the channel. I use YouTube because I like the closed captioning. The tools are better. I think it's just a better platform. I know a lot of instructors don't use it, but that's how I do it. Now we're getting to the point where there is a link to the syllabus here, both here and within this posting. So I'm going to bring this up on screen and we'll talk through the syllabus. And I apologize in advance because I'm required to do this. I know that sometimes I get people who have me for like 2 or 3 classes in the semester, and the first week is like, this is what we do. It's required, by the way, by college policy, financial aid, and all that kind of stuff that we do this process. The point of going through the syllabus is really to kind of explain to you what you're going to learn, how we operate, and what our policies and procedures are. All right, so we are in the fall semester of 2025. This is the database course 1520 at 02 RMA in person, 2W7A async online. It's a 3-credit course. People in the 2 RMA section will meet here on Mondays, as we discussed, in person. People in the asynchronous section, 2W7A, are not required to meet at any point, but can join the Zoom sessions if they wish, right? Or come to the classroom. You guys are welcome. We start today on Monday, September 8th. And keep in mind, we've kind of like lost a week already, right? Because last Monday was a holiday. So we're starting off like basically on a delay. And that happens once in a while. So we have a little catch up to do already. We will end on December 8th. That's, I think, 13 weeks or 14 weeks from today. And I always tell my students that goes really, 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 really fast. You blink your eye and the holidays will be upon us and the course will be done. The Zoom link is provided once again, as is my email address and my phone number. I do have an office here on campus, which is, for those of you here down the hall, turn left, to go out the west doors, and there's a room T312. Real frankly, calling me or like knocking on the office door is highly ineffective because this is the only day that I'm on campus, right? So I'm like very rarely here. And then when I am here, I tend to be in the classroom, not in my office. If you do call that phone number, just be mindful of the fact that if you leave a voicemail, it'll email me. But generally speaking, I usually don't call people. When I think my emails aren't getting through, I might text you through that number, by the way. But only if you've put in a form that approves you being texted. All right, here's our course description, and this is basically what we're sort of teaching to. Once again, I list the optional text. If you want to buy it, you do not have to. It is not an obligation, so if you don't want to blow the money, just don't do it. What do you need to do your work in the class? We'll get into like detail on that in a little bit, but basically a modern computer system, a PC preferably, but a Mac or a Linux machine would work as well. No Chromebooks, no phones, no tablets. Those are not really adequate for doing this kind of work. If you're working from home, a good internet connection. We will also install the MySQL database software, both the server and the client software, MySQL Workbench. And then having other IDEs or text editors is helpful. Web browser, Office Suite, it's all pretty basic stuff. You will need to be successful in this class to install that MySQL software on a machine, right? If you're in the classroom, in principle, it should be preloaded here. But when you're at home, it does require a little bit of a step. And one of the things we're going to do today is make sure that stuff's installed. Here are the course competencies, which are basically kind of, I think of it as the bullet points we're teaching to. So when you walk out of here at the end of the semester, you should be able to do these things, right? And that's my goal, is to make sure you understand that. There's a link here to a course outcome summary, which details all the descriptions, the competencies, and assessment criteria. If you're really fascinated, you can dig into that document. All right, let's get to the part that probably matters the most here, which is like how we run the course, how we grade, the expectations, the policies. The first thing that you'll see listed here is like we have an attendance and participation policy. What I'll say to all the people in the classroom, first of all, thank you for all showing up. It sounds kind of silly, but technical college exists to basically train you to get jobs. right? And if you don't show up to a job, what happens? You don't get paid. All right. And going to school is kind of the same way. You don't succeed unless you show up. You guys signed up to come in person, right? So I expect you're going to come in person because that's what you wanted. If not, you would have signed up for the online section, right? So, uh, however, right, attendance is not like the end all and be all. I don't have an attendance grade, by the way, but I do grade on participation. Um,
Recording in progress.
All right, so the point I was making is that I don't actually grade on attendance. So if you miss a class, it's not really that big of a deal. But I do grade on participation. So just because you miss a class doesn't mean you're going to skip your homework or be excused from the activities that you need to perform. So participation is really kind of a matter of kind of showing up, but electronically, how do you do that? Well, you log into the course, which I can see like when you log in and that you're turning stuff in and that you're completing your activities. And as long as you're active in the course, generally speaking, you'll see I have 14 participation points here. That equates to 14 weeks of instruction. So you get 1 point per week just for showing up, basically doing stuff, right? If you're not turning stuff in, not showing up, not signing in, those points will go down. But generally speaking, if you attend every week and you keep active with your stuff, you will earn all of those points. They're kind of a gimme, right? Here's the other real important thing to note, like especially for those that are new to me as an instructor, is I do not use weighted grading in the classroom. I use a 100-point system, meaning that there's 100 total points available, and every assignment that I'll give you is worth a certain point value, which is directly translatable to a percentage of your grade. So if you have a 2-point assignment, it's 2% of your grade. There's no weighting on that scoring. I think that's a really easy way to operate. We do have some assignments in here and exams. There's a midterm and a final exam that total 20 points altogether. And, you know, that remainder is then assignments, which is 66 points. And that's how the grading is broken down. Generally speaking, the assignments will be completed during class time. Like, so we will code together. And I do that on purpose, right? Because I know a lot of you are new to coding, you're new to databases, and that way you can try the code, make sure it works, right? And so like by simply attending class or watching the videos, you should be able to complete all of your homework. One of the problems with relying on that though is like sometimes we run out of time during class and we don't finish all the exercises, so you still have to do some of that work, but we usually pick it up the following week. So just be mindful of that. Whenever I record videos, by the way, those are usually posted the day after class, but usually within 24 to 48 hours after class. We do have a grading scale here at Gateway. So like ultimately, and you'll notice with this phrase right here, you are required in all IT classes that are part of a program or degree track that you have to get a grade of C or better, right? So this is maybe an eye opener for people coming out of high school, right? Where it's like, I remember high school, it's like, whew, got a D minus. All right, I don't have to take that again, right? Here in the IT classes though, if you don't get a 74% or higher, you don't get a C or higher, you have to retake the class. It doesn't count for your degree. You can take an English class and get a D and not have to retake it, but a program class will have to be retaken. It seems a little harsh, but we want to make sure you're at a certain level of understanding before you can take the next course that follows, right? The good news is, especially for intro level courses, we help you a lot along the way. So it really shouldn't be hard to get to that point. The only way that you're really not going to reach that is if you don't turn in the work. And if you're in that situation, I will reach out to you and let you know and try to find a way to work with you to make sure that it can happen, right? Because I really don't want people to not pass a class, right? My goal is to make you pass the class at a very high rate. We will have one midterm exam, one final exam. The midterm exam will happen in the week preceding October 17th. Midterm grades will post on October 17th at noon. The final exam will be active during the final week of class, and those final grades, I think December 8th is our last day of class. So by December 9th at noon, our final grades will post. One kind of good thing to know is that we never do exams during class time, you guys. And I'm saying that to the in-class people. I don't waste you don't come to school and go, okay, we're taking an exam. Good luck. See you later. I use the time to teach. So the exams will be released. It'll be on Brightspace. They're usually true, false, multiple choice, multiple select. They're auto grading. So like as soon as you're done with the test, you will see how many points you earned, and they can calculate your grade from there if you care. Um, but generally speaking, they're not that hard, So I know some people get test anxiety. My goal with exams is to test the fundamental knowledge, and if you're not getting a good grade on one of my exams, then you're really not getting it, right? So also, I don't want you to ever freak out to an exam, because if you don't get a great grade on the exam, it's not the end of the world, right? You're only losing a few points out of the grand total. Um, the other thing I wanted to dispel right away, especially if you're coming out of high school or currently in high school, because they get people like that too. Um, if you do well on the midterm or the final, that does not dictate your grade for the whole course. I've had students literally come in, not do any work. They get an A on the midterm. I'm like, but I got an A on the midterm. Why did I get an F? You didn't do any homework, you know? And, let's face it, I'm training you guys to get jobs out in the field. Employers want to hire people that do stuff, not people that, don't, right? And so like the reason we have deliverables is for that reason, to kind of get you ready for the job place, basically. I do have some late work policies that are pretty important to note. First of all, any assignment that I put out there is going to have a due date on it. When do you turn in assignments? Before the due date. You don't wait till like the due date to turn it in. Try to do it before the due date, right? Most assignments will be set for 11:59 p.m. on whatever day they're due. But if you miss the due date, you will start to see late penalties, right? But I have some kind of cool policies that help you kind of buck that a little bit. And here's one of the policies that I think is really important. If you're working on something and it's not quite done, turn it in on time, and you get an extra week to work on it with no late penalties. If you just turn it in late, you will have a late penalty. See the difference? Right. So I just want to see that you're working on something, basically. Once something is late, then you're going to see a reduction in point. The maximum reduction is 50% after 2 weeks. So like if it's 2 weeks later or more, you're going to see half the points. If you're doing that on every assignment, not a really good recipe for success, right? Given the fact that I'm going to help you with the homework, it really should never happen. It's kind of my mindset, but I get it. It still does once in a while. The other thing is that 50% is kind of, let's say, prorated. So like if it's 1 week late, you get 25% off, so it's kind of a sliding scale. I also tell my students, it's like, hey, you missed 11:59 p.m. I'm not sitting there at 12:01 a.m. waiting to grade your stuff. If it's like a few hours late or the next morning, I usually don't even mark it late. I don't really care. If it's there when I go to grade it, you're golden typically. However, if you are working on stuff, I'm looking for a few different things. Basically, do the work correctly, follow the instructions, turn it in on time. You do those three things, you'll get all your points. It's a no-brainer. And typically when I grade, I won't even make a comment. If you did all those things, all your points are there, you're fine, right? If you start to see comments on your work, you probably want to read them. Every once in a while, I do positive ones like, great job, or nice work. But lately, I don't do that as much. Usually if there's comments, it's like, you should read this. It's like, you didn't turn it in right. You didn't follow the instruction. You didn't whatever, Often when I put comments in, I also give people the opportunity to fix it, but only if the work was on time. So if you turned it in and it wasn't quite right, I'll say, oh, just fix this part, turn it back in, and I'll give you your points. But if it was late, you got the late penalty. I might let you earn some points back, not all. So just be mindful. Due dates are important. I also have this goofy little coupon here, right? And it seems kind of silly, but it's kind of a safety net. So when we get, especially towards the end of the course, you got other classes, there's pressures from home or holidays or whatever. This is kind of a little safety net mechanism. The way that you use it is you screenshot the coupon and turn it in place of an assignment. and I'll give you 2 points. So if the assignment's worth 4 points, you get 2 points. If it's worth 2 points, you get 2 points. But 2 points is better than no points. And sometimes it's helpful, real frankly. Can't use it for extra credit, for tests, participation, just regular homework assignments. I will remind you at the end of the course that it's there. And try not to get tempted to use it right away at the beginning of the course, because I do get people that do that. They don't want to do any work, so they just give me the coupon right away. So if you use the coupon and you change your mind, I'm willing to revoke it and let you turn in the assignment. Just keep that in mind too. It is possible if the course is a complete train wreck that, well, not if it's a train wreck, but if you have some difficulty that's throwing you off course, you let me know and we can work out an incomplete. That should be a very, very rare circumstance. My grading policies are here. I'll let you read that. We've talked about most of this stuff already. Here's the key dates for the course. Right, so we start on the 8th, finish on the 8th of December. Last day to drop is September 23rd, and you get a partial refund for that. And then they have a withdraw date. The withdraw date is, and I always feel compelled to explain this. Like if you drop a course, all right, it's kind of like you never took it, right? Because you only have till the 23rd to do that. But if you get past the 23rd of September and it's really not going well and you want to just give up on it or whatever, don't just walk away from the course and take an F, because that impacts your college transcripts very negatively, puts a 0 on your GPA, which really brings your GPA down, and the F looks really bad on a transcript. So if the course is a train wreck, you have until November 17th to withdraw, then you get a W on your transcript, has no impact on GPA. So I always recommend, like, if you're going to get an F, you may as well just withdraw. Just come back next time. Don't take the F. Usually, if that's going on, you're probably going to be talking to me about it, and I will be reaching out anyhow. The census date is the date by which you must attend class either electronically or in person, especially if you're getting any sort of financial support, financial aid, grants, scholarships, etc. All the people here in the classroom, you've passed that date already. I have an instructor drop period from the 24th through the 30th of September. Very rarely exercise, but if you're a no-show, incommunicado, not doing anything, not logging in, etc., I have the option to eliminate you from the course. However, I think the whole time I've been here at Gateway, I've done it maybe twice. So it's very rarely exercised. Midterm grades post on 10/17 at noon. Final grades will post December 9th around noon. I'm pretty routine with that stuff, and I will remind you of all of it. All right. I have my rough calendar listed here. This stuff is also in the syllabus calendar and instructor info course section of our Brightspace page if you want to revisit it. This is a rough course calendar, so these are the topics that we're going to talk about each week. Then the items that are due, like when those things are due, homework-wise. I will just tell you, I mean, these due dates right now are accurate. That's what's in the course shell, but they are subject to change, right? At my discretion or based upon our progress or whatever. I don't anticipate this will change much. This is my 3rd or 4th iteration with this format, so it's pretty solid at this point. But in case you're curious, what are our topics? When are the due dates? If you start like figuring out like how these due dates work, like for example, I just go in the middle here somewhere. Basically, the week of October 6th, we're going to talk about these SQL commands: insert, update, and delete. The homework, right, will be due 2 days after, right? The next week's session is typically how it works. And I think that's better reflected down here, right? So this other calendar is the exact assignment listing in your course shell with the exact due date that I currently have scheduled. Now you'll notice today is the 8th. So in a week, the syllabus acknowledgement is due. And honestly, you guys should just do that right now, like if you're in the class. And then the MySQL Workbench install is due next week, 2 days after. See the pattern, right? And that's pretty typical for the homework. My thinking is like this: you can come back to the class. Sometimes we haven't finished coding the assignment. So You can ask questions about it, and you still have 2 days to turn in the work, rather than having it be due before the next week's class, which is like what most instructors do. It's kind of a practical thing on my point too, because it saves me a bunch of emails. I can just talk to you in person, in the classroom. It just makes a whole lot of sense. So this is the plan as we start the semester. And once again, these dates are subject to change, but you can see the point values for everything. Nothing is hidden. I might be peppering in some extra credit stuff here and there. We'll see how that goes. And I don't usually do it in this class, but in some of my other classes, like my Python class tonight, we Kahoot a lot, right? And I use that instead of lecturing. So I've been kind of entertaining doing that here, but I don't think so. Right? We'll leave that for the Python class. It just seems to be more appropriate. All right, that's the syllabus, folks. What I need you to do next, and here in Unit 0, there is this link to the syllabus acknowledgement. It takes you to a discussion forum, and the way that you complete that is you just click that title, go to the forum, and then start a new thread, and you can see well, all of you here in the classroom, or some of you here in the classroom have already done it. Where you just click start a new thread, and then you can, you can type whatever you want. I just want to know that I have read the syllabus and understand its contents. And here's my snarky joke, and I will obey. No. I'm kidding. So that's bad humor on my part, but I just want to make sure that you received it. What I tell everybody is until you do this, I will not grade anything else, right? And that's just so that I know that you understand our grading policies and that you read it, and it is part of college policy. Once you've done that, of course, you can hit the post button, and it is visible to everybody, by the way, but I just want to see that you've read the syllabus. And it is point bearing as well. So you will get, I think, a point for doing that, if I remember right. All right, so we are now most of the way through Unit 0. We've done the syllabus acknowledgement, and now we're getting to the bottom of the unit here where we're going to start talking about hardware and software. First of all, I'm very happy that all the people here in the classroom, you guys are smart enough to bring laptops, and hopefully, I don't remember if I urged you guys to do that or not, but if I did, that was the right move, because we came into the classroom today and the software we need for class is not installed on the machines, which doesn't make me super happy, but that's how it goes, I guess. All right, if for any of you, you're wondering what kind of gear do I need to succeed in our IT programs here, this is what this entry is about. These are, excuse me, some general guidelines for what you should have. And I do get people once in a while that will come to class with a Chromebook or an iPad or something like that, or a really super low powered machine that's not really capable of doing IT work. And the reason for this posting is basically kind of clarify these issues. Right now, what I generally say to my students is like, you don't want to use a consumer grade computer to do IT work. There's a reason why IT people use higher level gear, like the same reason why you use a better computer to do gaming, right? Because the gaming experience is better if you have a good graphics card, more memory, and more CPU, right? And IT work, like video gaming, like audio and video production, pushes computers harder than, let's say, watching a YouTube video or creating a document. So for operating systems, our programs here are Windows centric. So like we teach around Windows. The why, real frankly, is, well, 95% of the world uses Windows as their basic operating system. If you have a Mac or a Linux machine, right, and I get those people, you are totally fine, right? You can do all this work on either platform. The configuration might be a little more challenging. On Macs, it's pretty darn easy. On Linux machines, it depends on the distro that you're using. But what I say to all my students is whatever platform you're using, try to run an updated, modern operating system. Microsoft now is officially Windows 11. We're Windows 11 here on campus now. Windows 10 is pushing out of support soon. So you really don't want to be on that for too much longer. Most of us will be using home versions of Windows, which is fine. But eventually you'd want to switch either a pro or education version. Education version licenses are free. And during one of our sessions here, especially in person, I can show you guys how to get that key. What the beauty of it is, all of our students get that license key for free. And what a lot of people don't know is if you have like Windows Home, um, the pro and education stuff is already loaded on your machine. You use a different license key, you drop it into your machine, and it just unlocks it all. It takes about 10 minutes on a modern machine to unlock it all. And it gives you a lot of features like remote desktop, virtualization with Hyper-V, encryption, and a few other things. But those first three are pretty important. Um, you do need to have the virtualization capability when you get to your mobile programming class in the web program, because we virtualize other operating systems as part of what we do. You two are AI data and you two are web, so that'll affect you guys more than you. In terms of CPUs, for Intel chips, I tell people 10th gen or better is ideal. i5s, i7, i9, stay away from the i3s and the Celerons. Most of the AMD Ryzen chips are fine. All the M series Apple chips, Apple Silicon, whatever they call it, those are all fine too. If you're on a PC, 16 gigs of RAM or more. If you're on a Mac, you can actually get by with 8, believe it or not. A lot of people don't believe me, but I have a 8 gig MacBook Air with the M1 chip, and it screams with only 8 gigs of RAM. I don't know what the architecture is, but it sure works. If you were buying a brand new machine, you were like, well, how much RAM should I have? I would say 32 gigs is the minimum these days if you're buying a new machine. I just upgraded this machine that I'm using this past summer from 16 to 32. It cost me like 40 bucks. And this is from Best Buy. I wasn't even like shopping around for price. But the more RAM you have, it's kind of like having more desk space. You can do more stuff simultaneously. So strongly recommended. I also recommend that you have a fairly large hard drive, a terabyte, 500 gig at a minimum. Terabyte really is recommended. SSD, absolutely. Most machines you buy these days have SSDs. Make sure your machine can virtualize. All Mac machines are capable of it. PCs, it depends, and sometimes it depends on the OS. Make sure you have a reliable high-speed internet connection. I think people overlook that often. So if you don't have a very good one, there are a lot of options out there now. Does anybody here live like out in the county where it's like don't have any internet? Yeah, I actually have a couple of my instructors that used to be in that situation. Starlink is now in our area, so you can get that works pretty well. But worst case scenario, you can always tether off of the phone, but you want that stable connection, especially if you're Zooming or doing an online class. That's my feeling on it. It's good to have a device with a camera and a microphone for Zoom sessions. Not absolutely required because of backup. And what I always tell people is if you're Zooming, you can always use your phone or your tablet for the camera and mic and log in your computer at the same time. So Zoom allows for multiple logins. And I do very strongly recommend having a second screen. I don't know. Do you guys all have second screens at home? Yes, no? There's some head shaking, some agreeing. I mean, when it comes to coding, and I get spoiled. Like I'm hooked up to 3 screens right now, right? And when I'm at home, it's either 2 or 3. When you're coding, it really, really is super useful to be able to have like code on one screen and other stuff on another screen. And heck, if you can get the third screen, even better, because then you can watch YouTube at the same time, right? Or game, right? Like if you guys like think like me, because that's kind of how I operate. But real frankly, it is really, really helpful. Now, what I also tell people is you don't have to go and drop like 200, 300, 400 bucks on another screen. Heck, just go down to Goodwill, find somebody else's throwaway screen. The second screen can be kind of junky. It doesn't really matter. If you just like put like, I don't know, whatever on it, like your files or the book you're reading or the video you're watching on that second screen, it doesn't have to be super high quality, right? And because I know some people freak out to that aspect, but it is really helpful because once you go 2 screens, you never want to go back, right? Anybody that hasn't can concur. The other approach is like here on my instructor station, I have one of these ultra wide monitors, which is kind of like 2 monitors put together. Like one big super wide monitor is just as good as having a dual screen. It does become addicting to multiple screens for sure. Like here, for example, at Gateway, our office workers all either have these ultra wides or 2 screens as a default, right? And once again, it doesn't cost a lot of money. We already talked about OSs. So if you're on a Windows machine, it's probably better that you're on 11 or 10 fully patched with all the upgrades. I forget what the recent OSs are on the Mac OS, like Sonoma or something like that. But always upgrade your OSs and run the latest versions because those are the most secure, by the way. Although we could have talks about like when Windows puts out new versions, you don't necessarily want to switch right away. There's strategies to it. Ultimately, we will have software we use for this class, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but you want to have web browsers available, Office suites. You can use the Microsoft Office suite, which is available to you for free, or the Google App Suite, or both, right? A lot of students go to the Google App Suite because it's attached to the email and it works really well. But we do have full access to Microsoft Office, including a downloadable, installable version that you can put on up to 5 machines attached to your student account. So that's kind of a nice little perk. So I would recommend, that you download and install it if you haven't already. And I can show you guys how to do that here in class. Every course that you take will have certain software. Generally speaking, any software that we use, either in the web software developer programmer or web programmer or the AI data analytics programs, all the software that we get is basically free. Now, for those of us that are here in the classroom, we're going to do this activity, which I am not going to record, by the way. We're going to do it pretty briefly because there's few of us. So I'm going to pause the recording for a moment.
Recording in progress.
All right, we're back from break, and we're going to look at the last little thing that I have posted here in Unit 0, which talks about this activity. And in this course, I do not make it an assignment, but if you were to take like my web course or if you did fundamentals of IT or something like that, I actually make this an assignment, right? I consider real frankly that one of the more important skills of operating a computer is knowing where your files end up. That sounds like kind of goofy. But what's happened in modern operating systems is both the Mac OS and the Windows OS have gotten to the point where, like, let's say you open up Microsoft Word and you create a file, and then you hit save, and then where does it go? That kind of thing. And then most of us are like, well, not a problem. I don't know where it went, but I can search it, right? Or, and it comes right up, or it's in the recent file list, and it's, typically it ends up in your documents folder. But it always amazes me how few people know where their files go. So what I want you to do is just kind of follow this little activity, which is to figure out a place to store your files that makes sense to you. And I'm bringing up a File Explorer window here in Windows. And what most of us typically will do is we'll set up a folder structure in our documents folder. You can see I have a bunch of like gateway folders here. But for example, I might create a gateway folder, and then inside that gateway folder, create a folder for like I did for my web programming class. Or if I'm having a database class, I'll make a new folder and call it databases, right? And then inside that folder, I know I'm going to have folders for all of my unit homework. So I might make additional folders for each unit, just for example. So I might do like unit 1, unit 2, etc. And really, it's up to you to figure out where your files are going to go. But regular computer consumer users, you can ask them where a file is, and I'm not really sure I can search for it, right? IT professionals, you guys need to know where your files are. The other little setting I'm going to recommend for you is once you're in a folder, and I'm going to go up a folder here into, I think web programming probably has a file. In Windows 11, there's this little triple dot options thing where it says see more. If you click that, there's an option here for options, and it brings up this box. and you'll notice there's a tab called View. And the one little item I suggest that you uncheck is this one here that says Hide extensions for known file types. I'm going to click it on, and I just want to show you what it does. It obscures the last part of the file name because you know what? Normal people don't care. That's the why, right? But when you're an IT person, you want to know your file extensions, especially web people, by the way, right? Because if our file extensions are right, our web pages don't load, right? But that's a general setting I recommend for IT people. We're power users. We need to work in this mode. Wherever you choose to store your files is on you. A lot of us will put the stuff in our documents folder like I just did here. And then if you're on modern versions of Windows, most of those will automatically sync with OneDrive, if that's how you have your system configured. If you're on a Mac and you do the same thing will happen there. I use Google Drive personally for all of my academic work. Google Drive offers an installable piece of software you can put in your system tray called Google Drive File Stream that you can download and install. It runs this icon in your system tray, and then it creates a G drive on your system that looks like a regular folder structure, but this is all in the cloud. Now think about the benefit of this. Somebody walks into the classroom here, steals my laptop, all my school stuff is still in the cloud. I'm good, right? It's a smart way to work. Now, if you're working on Windows or the Mac OS and your Mac OS is automatically pushing stuff to iCloud, which it does, or if you're on a PC and it's pushing it to OneDrive automatically, you have the same safety net. So I always recommend that you have that kind of a safety net. And if you don't, like some people opt to turn that stuff off, then you have to be really good about making regular backups. And guess what? Most people are not good about making regular backups. Another thing you guys should know is if you're on a computer that's got an SSD hard drive, SSD hard drive failures are catastrophic. There's no recovering from them typically. If you have an old-fashioned hard drive that has spinning patterns in it, there's some hope of recovering your data. But an SSD that crashes, that stuff's done, right? So if you don't have your files backed up, you're asking for trouble. Whenever I do anything that I'm actively working on, it's always in the cloud. That's just my approach. All right. Let's end this video here. So we finished covering Unit 0, and now we're going to move on to other things.